Hey Ian, ragazzi, andiamo. Get out of here, you're not in an espresso bar in Italy now, kid.
Just for whatever way in the ruck, just his foot made contact with my eye, and his stud in particular went, in the side here and ultimately burst my eyeball. Yeah, it was slightly different in Italy in the sense that they shaved your head in a weird way. They gave you a weird hairstyle, so they could seriously shave half of your hair, or they...
There he is. Killer.
Lukey,
what's going on? Let's do it.
Let's go.
Well, Dave, we're here. What the Ruck is hitting the road for the 2026 Six Nations Championship. Our friends at MSL Motor Group and BYD North Dublin have given us this beauty of a BYD Seal U to go around and pick up some former Italy players, Wales players, Scotland players. What do you think of the whip so far, Dave?
Lots of great guests to come, and we're arriving in style anyway, so massive shout out to MSL. Unfortunately the weather doesn't reflect the interior of this car at the moment here in rainy Ranelagh, but it's normally sunny up around this side, but we'll get over it today.
It is. You nippy enough, we could maybe check out this feature. Hey BYD.
Yes?
Turn on heated seats in the passenger seat.
Sure, I'll turn on seat heating in the passenger seat.
Now Dave, don't want you getting cold in the warm-up before we go to collect the main man, Ian McKinley, who's our Italian guest. So want to keep you warm there, keep you in top flying form before kick-off. So we have to start with the first round of Six Nations Championship. Last week, Dave, on our little preview of the campaign, you did call a France win. You were in Paris yourself, and it did happen.
And what else were you expecting? Did you expect me not to call it? Of course I was going to call it. I see these things and they come true. Yeah, I was in Paris myself, and I thought Italy would get a big culp. I thought it would be against Wales, which I still think they'll do. Did I see it coming against Scotland? Maybe not, because I thought Scotland were coming into this campaign with an actual great shout. I thought Ireland, it was one game, you'd be worried about Scotland because they haven't lost them in so long. But they've already gotten that monkey off their back now with the win last week, and they're coming over to Dublin full of hunger. It's a massive week now all of a sudden for Faz and for the team.
Is this Andy Farrell's biggest week since taking over as Ireland coach? Like, I know Italy, you've handed out many of them yourself, part of the team. We've hammered them a lot of times at Aviva Stadium, but like you said there, their confidence is going to be sky high, and this is arguably Ireland's lowest point since Andy Farrell's began his reign.
Yeah, and I actually, looking at the interviews yesterday, I've never seen Faz as maybe dejected. I felt very sorry for him. I've seen him bullish in interviews after, and annoyed and frustrated. I've seen him obviously delighted and happy, but composed. I just felt, looking at him, I felt sorry. I felt that, maybe the answer, he's searching for the answer, which normally Faz, his big thing is he has the answer. He knows what they can get better on, he knows what the fix is, and I just thought, looking yesterday, maybe, he's searching for something that maybe he doesn't, either isn't there or he can't put his finger on the pulse right yet. As I was saying, I was over there, I'm sure, watching it on TV, he felt the same. Just a very, very, very disappointing first half. That we're not used to seeing Ireland deliver. They came out, he's already alluded to these things, lacked intent, lacked conviction, just not the Ireland we're used to seeing, especially over there at the start of the game. We were way off. Second half, clawed back a little bit and gave a little bit of hope towards the end. I thought the likes of Nick Timoney, Jack Honan coming on made a big difference.
Mike Milne,
yeah, exactly. I think there'll be a lot of changes next week. Also with Faz, I don't think he'll give lads a chance to redeem himself to an extent. I think in certain positions he's going to he can be quite ruthless. There will be one or two, maybe three changes, I'd say, in the pack, but he will give lads a chance to redeem themselves. But there will also be a bit of a shake-up, which is needed, let's be honest.
Lacked intent was the part of Andy Farrell's post-match press conference that stood out the most for me. Did Andy Farrell ever say in an Irish dressing room that you were involved in that the side lacked intent in the game?
Not intent. I don't really. He's come in. There's stages in games, I think, where you've lacked intent, or you've lacked intent in certain aspects. Your scrum could be off, your line-out could be off, breakdown could be off. But judging from his, and Faz is a big man in body language, he'd actually, if you're walking down the Tyburn moping around in the morning with his humped shoulders, that's his general body language, he'd pick up on these things. He picks up on body language, he picks up on small things, how people carry themselves, and even judging by his own body language, which it's just natural after the game. I just said, he was deflated, down, and I think the whole team lacked intent, which is in every aspect. I don't think there was anything in that first half that you could have been like, and you can say, grand, solid line out, solid scrum, but there was no conviction, there was no purpose. Hey, I'm out here, we're over in Stade de France, we need to fly out of the sheds and someone come up with a big moment. It just didn't happen. How you went through the whole game. Did we get into any phases of momentum, forward carries? You look at Gillard, after every kick-off for them, carried like an animal back. And we kept kicking them, but he, unfortunately for us, carried back like an animal every time.
We, like we said earlier on, we are collecting former Italy international, former Irish underage international Ian McKinley here in Dublin to do a special look ahead to Ireland's match against Italy, get a bit of a look at his career, his remarkable career, all the adversity he overcame. But when you say Ian McKinley to you, he certainly is a legend of the rugby world, considering everything he's gone through.
Well, the first thing I'll be considering is it's a nice place here, Clanskey. I might get Talksport up my wages and see can I get put a deposit in the house down around this area. Lovely area. Yeah, look, I don't think there's anyone probably in World Rugby that's gone through what there isn't in gone through what he's come through to get back and to get playing international rugby in a foreign country and do what he did. It really is an incredible story. But you better answer the door here because it's raining and. Hey Ian, ragazzi, andiamo. Get out of here, you're not in an espresso bar in Italy now, kid.
Morning, lads.
Well, Ian,
how are we keeping?
how's it going?
Luke, you're
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, no worries, killer.
Ian,
Great
thanks
to see you.
Yeah, how you keeping?
I'm grand. Well, listen, it's not raining, so that's...
we pick up the Italian and the sun comes out.
Here you go, you brought the weather, kid.
I was picking up the Irish prop and it was pissing out, so it definitely helped. Well, Ian, we have taken the Ruck on the road for the Six Nations Championship. Myself and Killer here. Thanks to our friends at MSL Motor Group and BYD North Dublin. We're here in the BYD Seal U. And I have one question for you. Have you ever done a podcast in a car before?
I've never done a podcast in a car. I've seen the karaoke stuff over in America, didn't they have that? So hopefully no sing-alongs on this one.
There's a microphone here and that's actually the first thing I'm going to ask you to do here now. So.
We actually have a built-in karaoke system here in this BYD Seal U. I wasn't going to get straight into it, but Ian, since you brought it up, are you a man for the karaoke?
Well, listen, I suppose my go-to song would be My Lovely Horse, Father Ted.
It's a pretty good one.
It is, yeah, except...
If it's good enough for 96 Eurovision, I'm sure it's, yeah. Killer, you much of a karaoke man?
When called upon, you got to deliver. I presume you had the same kind of initiations over Ian, did you, with your first song, first cap?
Yeah, it was slightly different in Italy in the sense that they shaved your head in a weird way. They gave you a weird hairstyle so they could
seriously
shave half of your hair, or they'd be like a football, or they would just leave a Jonah Lomu tuft at the top, so there was no sort of sing-along.
Was that after the game?
That was after the game. You had to keep it for like 3 or 4 days.
Okay, yeah,
and then you'd shave it off. So if you ever saw the Italian players with the shaved head, then that was the initiation. So
I say Castro Giovanni was fuming.
I
can't be getting rid of this now. I'm taking it too long out. Ian, we have to start with the first round of the 2026 Six Nations Championship, and I won't lie, our main man Killer did predict an Italy win over Scotland.
Legend.
Some result.
Some result, yeah. I mean, like, firstly, I suppose, like, the rain was just unbelievable, wasn't it? I mean, it was like there were people calling for it to be maybe called off and all this sort of stuff, but it was absolutely bonkers. And like, fair play to you, Killer, calling it. Like, I mean, I actually thought when I was reading the teams, I was like this is the best, apart from Van der Merwe and Kinghorn, who are like Richie, they're like such important players to Scotland, but like as a whole, it was like a really good Scotland team. And caps and right age and everything. So it was all pointing towards, you know, Scotland just setting off on the front foot and putting in a performance. And I suppose as we're coming by here, we've got the white smoke almost coming from the Vatican almost.
Perfect time.
Perfect timing, yeah. So listen, it's I think it's good because it's just backing up victory after victory, like in the sense of a couple of years ago against Scotland in Rome, Australia, and then running South Africa close. You know, so it's good for the competition, you know, and Italy deserved it. Like, I think anyone who, you know, if you're not in the Italy or Scotland camp, you're just a neutral, a fan of rugby. Like, Italy dominated set piece and game management. So you know, credit to the lads, and a few sore heads I think in Rome this morning.
I'd say so. Killer, you would have played against Ferrari. You had a big game for Italy against Scotland. What sort of a tight-headed he like to come up against?
Yeah, we were just saying there, and obviously Ricconi, and I know he wasn't playing, but Ferrari, and just an old school, unbelievably technically good scrummager. You know, did very well yesterday. And as you said there, you're going in Ireland. I was over actually at Paris at the game, and it's unfortunately for us, it was we got the other tail of it. So it's like, now it tees up next week, almost becomes this massive. I know it's always a big game, but now it's a massive game. The lads are coming in massive, or Italy are coming in, you know, massively confident after that. Ireland are, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of hard questions asked tomorrow. It's one thing I don't miss these Monday meetings now after a game like that.
No, I didn't think, I suppose one of the first things I'd be talking about would be scrummaging, coming as an out half.
Yeah.
Obviously you're a bit more qualified to be speaking about
Let's
that.
Let's just talk about Ferrari and the Italian scrum.
But like, funny, whenever I was playing, I suppose, with Italy, like the years before that, growing up as a kid, watching the Six Nations and stuff, like Italy was always like a 10-man team. So you had like the scrum, and then you had Dominguez, and then when Dominguez went away, it was just the 8-man team, and Parise was basically doing everything because he was so good, and the scrum was so strong, and the line-out was so good. But that went away for a good few years. I don't know how you found it whenever you were packing down there, but now the last couple of years, and Simo would be sort of the cornerstone of that. Like he is a power. He's not the biggest prop in the world, but he is powerful. But they're becoming a powerhouse again, and I suppose that would be a talking point going into next week. Although Ireland did well in the scrum, you know, against France, you know. And
that was probably the strange thing. You go over, you know, going to Stade de France, and when your line out is good and your scrum is good, you know, there are two things you were probably worried about going into the game. All of a sudden they do well in them. But it's kind of every other aspect they struggled with. So yeah, it's going to be a very, very strange game next week for both sides. Italy are obviously coming in, as we said, with confidence. Ireland are coming in with the bit of doubt. So it's teed up for a cracker.
Yeah, because we're like chatting a bit beforehand. Like, you would have played against Italy, you know, a good few times, and easy wins, you know, like tough games I suppose up until a certain point, but ultimately, you know, Ireland would pull away like, whereas this is like the first time, certainly since I've moved back anyway, that you can go, well, actually there's a bit of interest in this game. Like, definitely. Ireland are still favourites, and you know, at home, and you would expect them to win, but it's like Ireland are on a down, Italy are on an up, and we haven't really said that for so many years. So I think it's going to be such an interesting build-up to the game, you know. It
will, and like, I think when, like, Killer, you probably know more, when you think of Italian teams over the past few years, like you mentioned there, the scrum, it's power, it's physicality. But as a former out half, and looking at the current midfield of Menoncello and Brex, how much would you relish to be playing alongside those two lads in the midfield?
Yeah, I mean, they really work well together, and it's almost like a father-son dynamic, because Nacho is, you know, just that bit older, and his sort of game complements Menoncello. And any coach that you speak to, like even Callum McRae, who's the Benetton head coach, like came out with an article last week saying that he's Menoncello, that this is, you know, one of the most talented players he's ever dealt with, you know, from a physical capacity standpoint. So, you know, it's an exciting thing, and I think what makes it a bit more exciting is that it's backs we're talking about. We always talk about forward power game with Italy, whereas now they've got really, you know, game-breaking backs. If you throw in Capuozzo, obviously Lewis Lina and Montijuana, you know, so and Garbisi's obviously sort of orchestrating things now. So it's a compact team. So no, it's really, really exciting, you know, and it's certainly a lot different to the dark old days whenever I was playing.
I was actually involved, when you're talking about the dark old days, I was involved in that the 2013 the famous defeat. Peter Manny was on the wing and he got done 2 or 3 times on the wing.
Well, can I tell you, I was will I tell you exactly where I was for that game? So I had just moved over. I moved over to Italy in August 2012. So you're trying to grasp at the language, you know. So a few of the lads that I was coaching with, I suppose, they just grabbed me and said, right, we're going to watch this game. Took me to a bar, and I've never, I suppose, drunk so much in such a short space of time with these lads, going around to bars having spritzes and all these, you know, Montenegros and all these different types of drinks. So I actually don't remember the game at all, and I was put to bed at 8 o'clock at night.
Ian, you mentioned there about moving over to Italy, but I think we might bring you back to the start of your career. Obviously, Irish underage, schools rugby. Killer, had you ever come across Ian? Because obviously he was involved with the likes of Murray, Ruddock, Madigan's at what, under 19, under 20 level, Ian?
Yeah, so I suppose, I went to...
Luke, he went to Columbus, Hogwarts here before he gets in, so they I don't think he ever played rugby. Chess, I would say.
Cricket.
Yeah, cricket and chess.
No, because there's a year's difference between us?
A year, yeah.
Or so, yeah, so... I don't think we wouldn't have been on the same underage stuff.
You would have been with Ronan Mahoney, Reece Ruddock, Jack McGrath, Pete.
Spot on.
You'd some team. Jeez,
we had because you were then in the team was at the lost Argentina in the World Cup in the underage stuff.
Well, I actually didn't make the team, but
okay, well,
that's why they lost.
Well, I remember that there was big fallout because Ireland didn't get out of the group stage, and that was obviously, you know, a disaster. So there was so much emphasis and pressure put on us for the game the following year in the World Cup, and we just, as it so happened, we got Argentina again. But yeah, we had a really good 20s group. Like, I suppose the biggest thing to come out of it, I suppose, is like we had 2 British and Irish Lions captains in Pete and Conor Murray, like, which is pretty incredible to sort of think of, and we probably should have done a heck of a lot better with the group we had. I think we finished second in our Six Nations, and then sort of had a few disappointing results whenever we got through the qualifying stage in the World Cup. So, but yeah, like I went to a small rugby school. In
very small.
About 300 kids, 160 boys. So like to get a rugby team was pretty good. So, and yeah, from that, like yourself, Killer, you know, you just get picked for teams and you start, you know, climbing the ladder. And finished my leaving cert and then went straight into Leinster academy stuff. So you're chucking a ball around with your mates in school to all of a sudden then coming up, and this was sort of when Leinster were starting to really motor. I got my first cap the week before the 2009 Heineken Cup final. Okay. So that was still sort of Michael Cheika. Yeah. And then so things were all going well, and then took a dramatic turn, shall we say.
Yeah, and I suppose that was something that we wanted to touch on, because it's something that you would have never foreseen, would never have
quite
been.
literally.
Jeez,
I did put my foot in it there, didn't I? Yeah.
Apologies,
you didn't get the notes, no?
Apologies about that.
Oh, listen, can you imagine how many of these I've
heard?
I'm
sure there's nothing that's
you never saw that coming.
But Ian, like, it's something that you couldn't have planned for, and I suppose for anyone who doesn't know, it was an accident in training, which is it a teammate's boot that left you?
So it was a game.
Okay.
So if you didn't get picked, you know, for a Leinster game, a Leinster A game, or whatever you played for your club, and my club at the time was UCD, and it was pretty handy because UCD campus is where Leinster basically was training. Riverview would use the pitches and all that sort of stuff, so it was pretty handy. And just like a couple of minutes into the game, I was at the bottom of a ruck, and we were playing in Belfield, and just found myself on my back, and I got just an almighty thud to my face, and like, you know the difference between like a stamp straight down motion and a rucking motion back whenever rucking was still sort of a thing. And I just got this almighty kick to my face, and next thing my vision just completely went, like it just went black, and I started a bit of a fight because I thought it was deliberate, and thankfully we found out it wasn't. And I suppose unfortunately it ended up being a teammate of mine who, just for whatever way in the ruck, just his foot made contact with my eye, and his stud in particular went, you know, in the side here, and ultimately burst my eyeball. So it's a bit of a, you know, that's I suppose in non sort of medical terms it burst. So yeah, I was rushed to hospital. We're actually not going to be too far from the Royal Lion here as we're driving along here, and rushed there for emergency surgery. And so you're sort of left sort of in the dark as to what's going to happen, because it was so sort of random, and you start to understand that it's a pretty serious injury, and injury is part of the game, don't we? We know all that, but when you start walking into A&E and people are sort of looking at you very strange, and you know your eyeball is out of your socket, then you can sort of get an understanding as to why. So but yeah, listen, surgeon reattached the eye and got it back to a certain amount, got about 70% vision as time went on. So got back playing, which was brilliant, and that was Joe Schmidt's first year. So
you went back into Leinster?
Yeah, so I was told that I needed to like not move basically for like a year. So you know yourself, when you get a shoulder injury, you work a bit maybe on your speed, or
you could do something.
Whereas I had to completely, like I couldn't fly, I couldn't do gym. Because if you think of build up of pressure, you know, if you start, you know, doing max efforts, or you start, you know, jumping to do, you know, so it was literally like you go from 100 to 0, which was a pretty hard thing to sort of take at the age of 20. And so anyway, my recovery just progressed and escalated. So I got back training after about 6 months, and there was no sort of like, you know, rehab sort of thing
for this.
So it was just well, it was literally just, I remember this so well, like Nathan Hines was with me on the pitch, and John O'Gibbs was there with the pads and was like, right, we're going to get into it. And so just went into rucking, and with Nathan Hines, so who's whatever 6'6" and 120 kilos, and I was at the game on.
Didn't even realise.
That's who is it?
Bows and Pats.
Pats and Bows, yeah.
Cheesy,
we'll take a spin around.
You know, you're looking, and as you said, with those, your standard injury, your shoulder, whatever, you know, you can sit down, you can map out a little bit of a blueprint for yourself.
Yeah.
I just think, like, for anyone listening to this, you know, it's such a traumatic thing what you actually went through. You know, it's life changing, obviously, Matt. You know, and even the way you talk about it now, you're so. You make it sound as if it was just your standard injury, but it was just, I'm sure, the battles I'm sure you've had, you know, with yourself, and in terms of, you know, the unknown. I suppose it was the unknown of it. Was it? Did you know? Like, did the surgeon tell you? He's like, you're going to get back to 70% vision on it.
No. So like you've summed it up pretty well. Like in the sense, like I suppose that's the hard thing. Like when you get injured, you like knowing, all right, you're 6 weeks out.
Yeah.
Like if you know, grade 2 ligaments in your ankle, you're 6 weeks. It's like, right, well, I'll try and make it a month.
So
at least you've got
target. Yeah.
Exactly. Whereas this, you were completely in the unknown, and completely. We'll use the pun, like blindsided. You didn't know where to turn.
We literally can't keep using all these puns.
That's three now. Yeah.
Is there? We have to keep going. You can edit them out.
Try to get as many as we can in.
But yeah, so like, and I think that was the difficult thing for sort of the Leinster medical staff or anything like that. But to be honest, it wasn't really talked about. Like it was just, you know, I gained back 50% after a 6-month target, and it was just like, right, just go out and play, and I did, and then that got to 70%, and things were going well. Like we're coming up to the RDS here, and you know, as a kid, I would have grown up anyway going to games in Donnybrook, and my dad's a Munsterman, like he's from Tipperary, you know, so he'd be, I'm alright then, so he'd be like, don't be going out to Donnybrook, and make sure you go down to Thomond and all this sort of stuff. So, but like as a kid, that's just naturally like where you grow up. Obviously, that's where you gravitate towards. So, whenever Leinster moved to the RDS, it was all about, I want to play home games in the RDS. So I ticked off that box with Leinster, and you're in fairly good company when you've got Johnny there. There was my first year Felipe Contaponi, Issa, Sean Byrne then came, Mads was
Some
in there.
kickers.
Yeah, so obviously it was pretty hard group to break into, but you were in the mix, you were trying to forge your own career. And so things were going well. It was back on the horse, as they say. And then it was the day after the 2011 Johnny Sexton inspired comeback against Northampton in Cardiff. Even though you were part of the squad, obviously didn't make selection, but you miss out by a few places or whatever. You still go over to the game, So we did that. Obviously, a few sore heads, down at the Burlington. I think there was an after party. A few of us had to play against
Montenegros there at that time.
There was no Montenegros
That had to be
because it was playing the next day. We were playing against the Irish under 20s. Whoever scheduled that, we weren't too happy with. So there was about 5 or 6 of us who obviously didn't make the squad, who then had to play this game. Begrudgingly, I suppose we did, and we're actually coming up to where we played, which was Wanderers. This is all sort of very coincidental.
I know. I planned to say well.
You've done very well.
Any credit for it. It's just complete luck.
But anyway, we were playing that game, and I remember then just we scored a try, kicked a penalty, and as I was going to kick, then whatever the conversion for the try, I was like, oh geez, my vision's got real blurry again, and the posts are just I can't make out the post properly. So anyway, kicked it over, and then I was like to the doc, I was like, oh, your vision's not great here. And they were just like, right, go on, go off. So went to the hospital, and I was told that I developed a cataract, which I was always told was going to happen. So that was the one certainty that I was always told. And people think cataract, quick sort of 15-minute local anaesthetic job, in and out, you're done. But just because my eye had taken a bit more trauma, it wasn't as straightforward as that. So had a couple of surgeries, and just my vision was just really cloudy, just been in fog the whole time. Yeah. And then we had a few weeks off from, obviously, in pre-season, and was in Galway visiting one of our mates who was playing with Connacht. He was propping with them, and just like we're driving here, I was in the back seat, and we just came up to a set of traffic lights like this. I was just looking at it, and I was closing my right eye, and I was just like this, and I was like, I can't see. They can't distinguish the colours of the traffic lights, and I was like, right, crap, something serious has happened. So rushed back and to Dublin, and they told me that my retina had detached. So for anyone that knows anything about that, it essentially gives you the vision in your eye. Yeah. So that had detached, and basically was told the next day that unfortunately we can't repair your sight. It's gone. The tear is too big. The dealing with the retina is like dealing with wet tissue paper. It's just we can't connect the dots together, essentially. So then vision gone, and so that was a bit like a sort of hearing a pin drop moment with the family, when the doctor comes in, and they were deeply upset because they had really thought that I was back.
And they got you to a level where you were.
And we're sort of that roller coaster thing, I suppose. Like any career, whether it's sporting or not, is like that, isn't it? But this journey in a relatively short space of time, we're talking about a year and a half, was really like this.
And probably had the hope of you got to 70% back, and then did you know when they said you will develop a cataract? Did they know that the retina was? No, was that just
no? And that was listen, there's no sort of. If would this have happened, if you didn't go back to play and all that. I mean, I got the all clear from my doctors. They were happy. So ultimately that just detached. And I suppose with that, my whole world sort of crumbled, personally and professionally, because then at 21, to make a decision, then what do you do? And you weigh up the pros and the cons to keep going. And this was the thing that you love to do. You wanted to represent Ireland as a kid. You're kicking a ball around.
You're there.
And listen, you never know what's going to happen. In life, in sporting terms and all that. But I suppose you were on the right path. You then had fought your way to get back on the path. You adapted how you played a little bit because of the vision and all that sort of stuff, without going too far away from instinct. so you were in a good place, and then so I made that really difficult decision at 21, and just went into Joe's office and said, I think ultimately 3 things came back to me that would never go away, which was playing professional rugby with one eye as an out half was going to be tricky enough. My eye was still, and even still to this day, it's sore. Like it's a bit painful just from, it's very sensitive. And the third one was that I was gouged a couple of times, which is an important part of the story, as to why I used what I wear afterwards. So I was gouged a couple of times for the club I was playing for. So that puts huge doubts in your mind.
When you're saying gouge, is in
Yeah. One was way worse than the other. And that was in my good eye. They were both in my good eye. One was at a ruck, so it's a bit more of a grey area. The other one was definitely that was my 3rd game back. So you can So like the only reason I suppose I say this, and I try not to, whenever I speak about that, I never try and put people off, because obviously there's no place for it. Things happen on the rugby field, but there's no place for that. But it's important, I suppose, people know that, because that's the reason I ended up wearing what I wore for that reason. So anyway, those things would just not go away in my mind, and you sort of think, well, you've got your life to live. Hopefully, you have kids in the future. You want to watch them grow up and all that sort of thing. So anyway, informed Joe that I'd retired, and the hardest thing, and you sort of like, you go into the office and you're like, that's it, and then I just went home and then waited for the press release to come out, because then they drafted all that up, and I remember I was just playing like Football Manager and the press release comes out and it's like, McKinley's retired, and I was just like, what have I done? Like, what am I doing here? Like, you don't know how to react or whatever.
Well, Dave, our Six Nations special for What the Ruck, our pickup wouldn't be possible without our friends at MSL Motor Group and BYD North Dublin. We're going to have a look at some of the best features of this BYD Seal U. It's a hybrid 1.5 litre petrol engine and up to 180 kilometres in electric range. Heated and air-conditioned leather seats and heated steering wheel. A 15.8-inch screen, wireless phone charging, electric boot, a sunroof and sunshade, and it even comes with built-in karaoke.
Unfortunately, I don't come with the car.
Looking at your career now, you can say like you took this journey and everything's happened, played out, but those months and years immediately after, like you said there, you're just sitting there waiting for the press release. Did you struggle?
People ask, like, did you get any counselling or help or anything like that? No. And maybe this is sort of like the IRFU, credit to them now, like I think are really good in resources for players.
But I'm sure, look, it's back then, probably mental health wasn't as spoken about then, and obviously what you went through at that age, it's not your standard as well. If someone retiring, you're retiring, but you're finishing up with
a disability,
and a loss of, as you said there, things that you would envisage your whole life doing, and then it's taken away from you.
No, so I mean, listen, like, I suppose that wasn't at the forefront really of in comparison to what it is now. You talk about the whole mental health and all that. Credit though to Leinster, because they were brilliant with me from trying to keep me involved. The players pooled money together and gave me like a holiday voucher. Didn't need to do that, which was really good. And they just, ultimately I got a job over in Italy through Leinster, because a call came through them, and sort of because I was maybe kept on the books, as it were, and they were always keeping me updated on particular camps, or if you wanted to do like a Leinster under-17s thing, or an Ireland under-17s kicking thing or whatever, because like I loved coaching as well, so they kept me involved in that. But like, I suppose to answer your question, did I struggle mentally? Initially, no. Those troubles came probably a year and a half after, but I'd moved over then
When the reality,
Italy
kicks in
at that stage.
So, was there any links to Italy pre this? Was it ever in any family ties, ever friends, or how did the move to Italy come about? It was 2012, was it?
Yeah, so I fall under the residency rule, no Italian blood in me whatsoever. But no, I always had a fascination with Italy. I'm a big supporter of rugby throughout the.
And you get away with it.
Yeah, you get away with the Italian.
Well, I have the ginger beard, which is gradually growing grey, and that's due to my kids. But yeah, so like, just I suppose being a fan of rugby, like I'd follow like every nation in a weird way, like, and from the smaller ones to the bigger ones, and like it always fascinated me like how much of a sporting culture there is in Italy, but yet the rugby team it didn't like just elevate itself.
Yeah.
So anyway, I always with underage games or going over with Leinster to the old, playing Aironi and all that sort of stuff, loved going over there, Treviso, and yeah, just got a call to move, not to those areas, but to an area where rugby was really not big at all. So that was literally like on the border of Slovenia, like where, you know, I'm talking like right up in the mountains, and it was in an area called Friuli Venezia Giulia is the name of the area, and the city was Udine, so that would be big for Udinese football. Yes. And I had Antonio Di Natale he was a big staple name back then, just literally living down the road, and you'd see him come out in his car and all this sort of stuff.
Superstar.
So yeah, absolutely. So no, just moved over with no Italian, sort of lack of vision in the eye. Went over with my girlfriend, and I was now a sporting director, I suppose, or a technical director of a young rugby club, and I was essentially taking kids from the age of 4 to adults that were 40 then. Okay. So it was perfect, because rugby wasn't a big thing, but they were wanting to make it a bit bigger, and not by any I don't know what it's like in Limerick. I'm sure it can be quite hectic whenever you win games and go on nights out and all that sort of stuff. They get a bit of attention. Not that I was ever a household name, but you did have certain moments. You go into a bar and lads would be like,
how was the game the weekend?
You were a good player, and it's then been talked about in the past tense, like, oh, such a pity, and you were this, you were that. I couldn't hack that. I was I need a reset here.
So it was probably the perfect, in a way, it was probably perfect.
It was the best thing that could happen.
Yeah, get away from it. You don't want people, I suppose, talking about something you don't need to be hearing on a night out or day to day. Yeah, it was a change, a refresh.
Yeah, and you can imagine, obviously, when you drink, then obviously, like, something might be said, something might be taken in a bad way. So anyway, just needed to go out where literally nobody knew anything about really rugby or me or anything like that. So it was perfect. But like, geez, you had to adapt to life, like, it's totally different to here. Like, people are brilliant, and there's a lot of similarities with Irish and Italian people, but like the 3-hour siesta is just something just to be marvelled at. Like, it's just wonderful.
We might try to get it in here. When Lukey's nearly kind of in that buzz at the moment.
I don't blame you. Well, with the weather we've been having, I honestly don't blame you. But like, it was just a totally different world. Like, just the social thing of coffees is a real thing. The Bella Vita,
the espresso bar and the fag in the morning to get you going.
Well, the place that I lived, it's not even an espresso. It's you have an espresso with a grappa, which is just like petrol. It's like it's just a liqueur, and it's strong, it's potent, and that's your morning coffee. So you have alcohol. You've 50% alcohol straight
First
in with your coffee. Yeah.
Killer. If there's ever a place you're looking, this is calling your name.
I think they're actually.
Might try to get a coaching gig over it.
They're looking for a scrum coach. I think,
Talk Sport Italy there on the road or something. The level of the club when you went over, was it the equivalent of
poor?
So AIL level, or are you talking junior?
Junior. Yeah. Okay. The senior team would be equivalent to a J4.
Okay.
J3 sort of thing.
So you're really going from top club province to really going back down to like a Towns Cup type team.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose if you think, when I left Leinster, like, you think of the players that were there at Leinster at the time, you think of the coaching setup, you think of, at this stage it was 2 Heineken cups
Did you? Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
bag.
Yeah.
So you're just like the level is just rising the whole time now. So yeah, you're going from that to now a porta cabin to pitches that are obviously, you know,
Not what you're yeah.
It is what a club scenario, and you know, so many good people attached to the club, and I'd still be really close with a lot of people there. But yeah, you're talking about 2 different worlds.
Yeah.
You know, they're not even you can't even compare it. But again, it all worked well, and like my wife found it really hard. Like, it was lonely. Like, when you go to a place that not many people speak English, like even the simplest things of going to the shop, going to sort out your phone contract, and then you've Italians talking to you, and you're just like, I'm so sorry, my Italian's not great. But I look back now and you go, like, it wouldn't have had it any other way, because if you went to a rugby area, like, everyone speaks English. Everything is done in English. You've foreign players, whereas there, like, I was literally going into schools where like, my very first, envisage it so much, like, went to this secondary school because I'd work with like a school project. Actually, if you ever want a good Italian place, there's one there for a good bit of wine.
There. That's not far from you, Killer.
Yeah. I'll know.
We can't name it.
We can't name it,
but we know
it's somewhere in near
let's just
Rathmine, Dranlan.
Well, let's just say a few. It was a couple of years ago. There was a former Ireland player. I won't mention his name, but we were cozily sitting on that table there with a bottle of Vino Rosso, so we were very happy.
Nice. We'll have to do a part 2 there next year when you're away, like over to Udinese next year, maybe, potentially.
Absolutely. Going into schools, and my first image was going to the secondary school, because that's what was part of my job, doing that in the morning, and like teachers and kids standing outside having cigarettes together on their break. 14, 15-year-old kids having, dressed as if it was Milan Fashion Week.
Like my kind of place.
I was about to say,
not one thing out of place, like, unbelievable. And anyway, having their cigarettes, and then next thing, it's like, right, we'll do some rugby with this, Irish lunatic or whatever. And like, not a word of English they had, like, and not a word of Italian. So it's amazing how much you can do with hand gestures and all this sort of stuff. So so you have to learn pretty quickly, because kids can be fairly ruthless,
can't they?
Yeah. So
they don't have the filter, which is, it's great in a way as well, but it's it shocks the system fairly quick. I'm sure they'll let you know very quickly.
Yeah, humbled very quickly, wouldn't you?
And like, even like, because you obviously played prop, like, you obviously got size on you, and I'd go and they'd be like, you don't play rugby, you're not that big, like, so they'd just be slagging you from the word go, but no, it was good. So
so the coaching, and that's how Italy started out. But when we transitioned back into your return to play, and the goggles, and I suppose the technology that changed the course of your rugby career. I suppose there were a couple of moments that were sort of how can you say, I suppose there were momentum shifters in my life. One was the untimely death of Navan Spence, and obviously you don't want to go too deep into this conversation, but it's like, that whole family, the dynamic has been completely changed, and that'll never be forgotten, certainly by the community around them. And that honestly hit me hard, because I moved over a few weeks and I got a call from my mate going, Nevan's passed away. And
was he Euro 20 side?
He was a year. I think he had another year, so he was in the younger crop of our 20s, but he was still starting and tough as nails. And like, if you were ever in any trouble, just give the ball to Navan and he'd just truck it up for you. And he'd look to break people in half, and quiet off the field, like, but
I think that rocked the whole rugby community. I think
and the rugby world, so to be honest, that's sort of, whenever I started, and you were asking about sort of the mental side of things, whenever I was starting to feel sorry for myself, I had to remind myself, like, there's Navan at the tender age of, was he 22 even or something, It's like, he's not going to get another opportunity to be able to do something in a green jersey and a white jersey of Ulster, and it's like, here you are moping about an eye. So that was sort of a shift maybe in
mindset,
mindset, and then ultimately there was a Leinster Rugby European game that the lads had, won away from home. Brilliant performance, and every player that I saw was like, I could play with him, and it was just like, I was with my brother going to visit a city, and I was like, as much as I love my brother, I was like, I'd much rather be in that changing room celebrating the victory
of course.
rather than going to visit some artifacts, and all that sort of stuff. So I just like broke down in front of him, and Phil is like, I have two brothers and a sister, but Phil, I suppose, was the one who saw firsthand maybe that I was struggling, and he just took that idea with him that eye protection is not available for people who are 18 or over. What can we do, and what people can we put in the same room to try and make this happen? So that started a cycle of a lot of meetings, trying to find people to design, trying to see what the status was from the IRB, so now World Rugby, and like so many things went in our favour, and I'm probably doing it a disservice of narrowing down this topic, but like, because there's so much to it, but ultimately, like, the World Rugby offices were in Stephen's Green, so my brother could just go in. I flew over from Italy, and we met people, found a student that helped with design, and found a manufacturing company in Italy that was 4 hours away from where I was living. So
And had you made a decision then to get this in, to get back then? Was that in your head, in the back? I know.
Well, I mean, the couple of things I said to my brother is that, one, I can't go on living like this, essentially. Like, it was not me saying, I've like insanely dark thoughts, and which would be detrimental to family dynamic and all that, but I just couldn't constantly be angry at the world. Like, I was angry. You'd see that guys in your position would, be getting man of the match, or other players would be winning trophies, and
you knew you were capable of that, and you were just like, naturally, you were just like, just annoyed, because I can't influence this. It's out of your control, and you're like, it's
exactly. And so no, that was certainly I suppose a tough thing about it, but I just wanted to go back and play, or at least try. Like, you could die happy.
You can die on your sword if you know I've given it everything, and I've tried to.
But I needed help along the way. It wasn't just just get up and go again. Like, I, for the reason, and that's why I explained about the gouging. Like, that's why I wanted some form of protection for my good eye, because I wanted to do this in a safe environment as possible. Rugby's a physical game, as we all know, and as time has gone on, there's a lot of mitigating factors that have probably, the contacts are still big, but like, back in 2009, 2010, 11, even the rucks were different.
But even
to what
you said
they
there,
are
as
now.
we rucked, the rucking motion of pulling, I know, and a lot of that, the under, the lower tackle, the AIL, all that kind of stuff. It's in the right place, but back then it wasn't. It was the Wild West. It was the Wild West.
So I didn't, particularly if I was now going to be playing at club level, you obviously don't get as high caliber of athlete, therefore you're going to get clumsier motions. Whether that's involuntary or not. So I wanted to, I suppose, mitigate all those things as much as possible. So anyway, after so many meetings, so many conversations, so many emails of just annoying people constantly, like, you were just an itch that wouldn't go away, because this is when obviously concussion was getting a much bigger issue, and that's the main priority.
It was getting all the headlines. Probably.
Exactly. And we tried to just keep pushing this on the agenda. Anyway, the goggles came as a trial basis, on a trial period, and every union could sign up to this trial. And
so you went to the IRB initially, then you had to get all the unions, was it to sign
exactly
up?
So the World Rugby, or IRB as it was, they basically put out this trial basis, and every union had the option to sign up to it or not, and Italy were the first nation to do that.
Wow.
And that's why then I could play there. And unfortunately there were 3 nations that didn't, and that was England, Ireland and France. So that got a little bit complicated as we went along.
And so, did you get a reason why?
Yeah.
Did you get a reason why?
To be honest, I think probably going to give you a very political answer here, but it's just like an education piece. Like when you're
they're not just going to sign up to something without them
exactly
getting all the facts.
Exactly, and you obviously have to cover yourself.
Yeah,
you have to cover your bases and everything like that. But so yeah. Anyway, got the goggles, and I suppose second last image was been in the Millennium Stadium, holding the trophy in the blazer because I wasn't playing or whatever. But you're standing, 80,000 people just cheering after this unbelievable, victory. And fast forward 3 years, I was now playing in Division 3 Italian rugby with a pair of goggles, and there was a few people at the game, but it wasn't 80,000, and a few pot bellies and beer bellies floating around the place from. I won't even say the forwards. You couldn't distinguish if they were forwards or backs, So, to be honest, I was just as happy being there as I was on the, at the Millennium Stadium. You're back. I mean, it was back. You're obviously very different, but
the control is back now.
Exactly.
I can control, and even getting to the gog. When you started wearing them, did that take? Obviously, is it like an adjustment, or did you?
It was much harder to play with them. Like I funny, I was even only speaking to my mum. Was it even this morning? Like, because she said to me, like, you would have found it really difficult playing in the game yesterday because the rain was so bad. So the best way I can equate it is like driving in the rain without windscreen wipers. So you're constantly
trying to drive out Lukey here. You're kind of over the road a bit.
I never thought about that though. Yeah, like when the wet weather.
Yeah, wet and mud and fog and all that sort of stuff. Like they'd fog up quite a lot. So like that. Listen, they're not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but they served a huge purpose for me in terms of giving me confidence knowing
and
that
security in yourself. That I'm
because even I suppose you think of the amount of times you get cuts up here and here, and you get hundreds of them,
and it's so close. Then something I might take for granted, you get a cut here. But in your head, I'm sure after what you've gone through, you're like, oh my God.
Or even if it swells up. Imagine if you get an elbow, a random elbow in a ruck, and it goes here and it swells up.
And then you're blind.
So those were the things that obviously the goggles aided with. People think that they helped with my vision. Absolutely not. They actually made
it more.
Because even the padding, so I just, like soft padding to give you a cushion when you wear them, like it takes like 10 degrees away from me. Even more, so I couldn't, if I put my hand here, I can just about see it. If I do that, which is what the padding was, I can't. Which is another, that could be a difference between making a tackle or not making a tackle, or a pass or a gap or whatever. So you have to adapt, and being blind in my left eye and being left-footed, that's not a help.
Now if you're doing a recovery in the pool after you've the goggles straight on, you're probably thriving in that if you're inside.
That's probably the only place you thrive.
And as a teen as well, like you know a lot more than me. I only need to focus on probably one thing, catch up. But you're trying to scan, read defences, read everything. You need how did you adapt? How did you, for even the one eye? Did you find that a big struggle? Was it?
I suppose. Sorry, I'm putting that down.
Or does the other eye even get more trained to that? So
I suppose in a weird way, in one sense, it was actually easier going up the levels because you're falling into a system. So players, you're starting to then play with players who know where to put themselves. When I was playing the lower league stuff,
you a random fell out in the wing.
You turn and you could either have no one there, or you could have 50 people. You wouldn't know what is happening. So in some ways, it was actually easier then to concentrate on my own game. But on the flip side of that, I suppose this was the real difference you noticed for like international games or the really high-end European Cup games, like when you're playing, Toulon away and they're fully stacked and that sort of thing, that those little impairments can cost you. Things maybe that
A split
people
second,
don't. If you were to watch the game, you might pick up on something, but I picked up on loads of things that I would get wrong.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's, but at the same time, it actually made my training quite interesting because I was discovering something every time.
Yeah.
But I had to keep it quiet from the coaches, because if you say, and I remember one particular game, like we were playing against Italy, we were playing against South Africa, and again it was team and rain. Like the coaches didn't know I couldn't see, like properly.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
It's
You explain to them, but they don't actually know what you can see.
Oh no, but like it's difficult for them to go, like Conor O'Shea up on the coach's box, like is Ian okay to go on? Like that's not a question that that should ever be in the thought process. You need to have full confidence in your.
Yeah.
So obviously the more that I could keep to
yourself,
me, you'd give maybe a couple of cues, but like you'd have to be smart, I suppose, about how to go about it and how you played the game.
Yeah.
So like I'd be box kicking a heck of a lot more off 9 when it became wet and all that sort of stuff, because I'd struggle then to see the ball and you know, all this sort of stuff.
It's
so
crazy that
you just
you got to that level and you made that work your own way, and you had to.
in some
I know it's about you were playing your own game within a game.
Yeah.
Well, it shows maybe there wasn't that many competitors, I suppose, for the out half position when I was there. That's maybe one side to think of it, but not like, I mean, that's no disrespect to Tommy Allen and Carl O'Connor, who are two outstanding lads. It's you just find a way, because like as you're growing up as a player, like we all have things to work on, don't we? Like some players can't. The game is even different now because everyone is so good at so many multifaceted things. But like you had players that, when I started off with Leinster, that in the back line couldn't pass properly. Like literally actually couldn't pass. So like it's like, well, there's a disability someone has. You know, if you're to sort of think of it like that, or you know, you can't hinge properly to hit a ruck because you've maybe something wrong with your hip or something. Like, how can you then?
I definitely have that disability. I'm just adding up all my disabilities. Am I entitled to any payments?
Well, jeez, put in a call afterwards and see where we go.
No,
but like, do you know what I mean? Like, not disability in the sense, but like areas to work on. This just happened to be my one, and it's like, how can you, how can you try and actually make that into a strength? And in some ways I did, and in some ways I didn't.
And then that, I know you touched on it there with Conor O'Shea, but that Italy call up then, and I suppose 5 or 6 years before, something you probably never would have dreamt of.
No.
But was it a summer tour 2017 was your first call up, and then the following autumn was the debut?
You've done your research very well.
Thanks.
And I don't, to be honest, I don't know how you're doing it. You know, it's pretty good getting all those facts out and then trying to drive at the same time.
It's definitely better than his driving.
Well, I was going to say there has been a tailback of about 4 kilometres behind
there has, I say they are cursing the BYD Seal U.
Just keep forcing
We wouldn't be into the e-scooters then, no.
I'll actually tell you a hilarious one about the. Sorry, we'll get back to the.
Don't worry, go on.
We were over in was it 2018, 2019? We were playing Italy over there, and remember these lime or bowl scooters came out.
Yeah.
And we did the thing in the morning. You're over in Rome. It was always like my parents' like, because Rome, you can tell the lads here, you'll testify for it. Rome is like one of the greatest cities you'll ever go to. It was always my parents' favourite game to go to. You know, just the whole city over there, just unreal. And you know the usual. You get up in the morning, you get out for your coffee, and you to see a bit of the place. You know, your hour in the morning. So we did that. We got these e-scooters anyway. Myself, Murray, Pete, and Earlsey, I think, were flying around espresso bar to espresso bar. Now we weren't having the liqueur.
That was the day after.
That was that night, and just going around anyway, flying it, and we were like, okay, we better head back now. So these yokes go, I think, 30 kilometres an hour. And we were staying, is it the Excelsior Hotel? Is that the one in the middle of Rome? So we're flying around anyway. Weather was unreal like this. We're in the Munster Polos getting back. And I came around, kind of like Lukey's driving now, around a bend like this. Car flies in, hits my scooter. I, little hopper off the thing, running kind of like this. And I was like, oh my God, my ankle here is killing me. So I was like, if I go in here now and tell Faz, my ankle is sore from being in a boat, you can imagine the reaction you would get. I said,
not a happy bunny.
No. I was like, I'd have to play and go down in 5 minutes and say, yeah, I'm after breaking my ankle here. But it turns out it was actually grand, but I was like, the fear of going into an international game because of cause of injury, lime scooter after espresso in Rome. But no, it was actually, I got through it, I was grand.
Has that ever happened to anyone where they've been injured doing other stuff, but then blaming that it happened on the pitch, Conor?
There's one I can think of, but I actually can't say it live here. Yeah,
because it involves yourself.
No, I was generally, if something happened to me, would normally get out. The lads would like slag me, but I can think of one ridiculous one here, but I can't say it.
Right, we'll leave it to the imagination. Ian, we might get back to that start of the Italy campaign, and obviously a fellow Irishman, Conor O'Shea, at the helm at that time. But was it a surprise getting that Italian call-up? Was it something that you'd expected after getting the residency rule, and I would imagine you became an Italian citizen?
So, I mean, you don't expect anything. Like, you have to work hard and all that sort of stuff, and I suppose you hope that comes. So, yeah, I mean, as a kid, like, I don't shy away from it, of course. Green jersey on, chucking a ball around in the garden, and you wanted to play for Ireland. Like, that's just the way it was and is, and but my perspective completely changed. Like, I suppose with the whole embedding yourself in the culture of Italy, and like really fell in love with the place, fell in love with the people, and Italy stood by me whenever Ireland didn't.
Yeah.
And that's the nuts and bolts of it, really. If you're to boil it down to something like that, whenever I needed a helping hand, and you would have hoped, I suppose, someone who did their best for the the union and provincial teams, that you would have hoped for a bit more support, but that didn't come. Whereas Italy, open arms, did everything that I asked of them and more to help. So listen, it's the whole residency rule thing gets was fairly topical a few years ago. I think a lot less now. And obviously I fell into that, and I suppose that the best thing you can do is just try and put your best performances forward. And like, I was coming into the Italy team when there hadn't been a victory since in the Six Nations since 2015. That obviously continued on until 2022, so it's a barren 7 years, and it's a hard place to be in. But definitely Conor, along with Steve Aboud, it must be said, started the wheels in motion to making sort of the underage setups and everything a lot more sustainable, because as I said, I've lived in Italy for nearly 10 years. I was even working there last year. You see seriously talented rugby players, and like, do things that French kids do, in terms of a bit
handling, and the quality of athlete over there.
But that's the biggest thing, is the quality of
athlete over there.
And there's no I mean, listen, it's a population of whatever 65 odd million. Like, it's a huge country, obviously driven by football. Rugby would struggle to get into the top 10 just about, in terms of sports, which I think needs to always, need to remind people that it isn't one of the big sports. You think of motorsports and Winter Olympics and all that sort of stuff.
True.
But there are so many talented athletes, and there's a big drop off, particularly when they finish school, because rugby is just played at club level. There's no sport at school per se, and there's a big drop off. And like, I think Ty Byrne is a great example, isn't he, for someone who didn't necessarily make it into a say a Leinster team, but
goes from base pizza to winning.
What a mistake that was.
I'll tell you another funny one quickly about Ty Byrne when he was working with base pizza. See, Ty was, those lads of training. I'm sure he was probably there when you were there with that nuisance of training that would just rob. He'd be on the opposition. Comes in, robs the ball, and Sean O'Brien used just like pretty much assault him every session. And Shawnee, being the elder statesman there, he was like, considered Ty, get out of training after doing it again. Ty, we used to call him Mopey Byrne, kind of walks around like this, moping along, mopes home, and he was working for Bay's Pizza. And we also call him Bad Luck Byrne. Just he's actually an unbelievably great lad, but his body language, everything about him is kind of mopey. And she's working anyway after getting lambasted by Shawnee at training, and gets into the mother's car, dropping the pizzas, doing his pizza run, calls up to Sean's crow, and Sean had kind of broke on now, he's a big name up in Leinster, delivers Shawnee his extra large pepperoni pizza, gets out of the car, apparently it was like lashing rain, 8 o'clock at night, phone falls on the ground, breaks the phone, he's like, oh, won't be burned, waddles into the house anyway, gives Shawnee the pizza. You're expecting the €2 or €5 tip, sound, slam the door straight in the face and Mopey back into the car. But yeah, it just...
And now look at him.
I know, it just shows you exactly, and now he's Lions, everything he's gone on to do, you know, one of the best players in the world, so...
Yeah, it's incredible, definitely the most famous pizza delivery man.
Yeah, but if you look at his journey alone, you know, you get let go by Leinster, you go to Scarlets, you know, you end up winning, you report 12 over there, come back, you know, everything's done for Ireland, Lions. It's just for any young person, young boy, girl listening, you look at that for a story and how incredible that is. And then you look at your story, and I know we're having the jokes and all this crack here, what you've gone through there, Ian, and I'm just like, I'm blown away here to come through that kind of adversity, trauma, you know, you've no, as you said, hatred, you know, you could be so angry at the world and you're just like, I got on with it, I went over, you played. I know, it's hard when someone talks about you, you know, it's such a motivational great story for anyone listening that's going through a hard time, or, you know, there's always hope, there's always something that you can, like, you changed it, you got the goggles in, you created hope for yourself again, you got back to playing international rugby, which is, and you're saying that there, you're playing it down there. I know.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard to hear compliments. It's actually an unbelievable.
There's no other
uplifting story.
Like
No,
yeah.
it's
No,
not.
well, listen, I mean, I really do appreciate
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
and it
yeah.
is like, I find it very awkward. Like, when
I know,
people say
because
things like that,
it's
but
hard
like,
to take compliments to yourself.
It is, yeah. But like I suppose the big thing is like, we all have our own story, and this is not. I'm not trying to get too philosophical.
No,
You feel free to edit this bit out of it, but like we all do have our own story.
Yeah.
Like, and I suppose this just happens to be mine. Like, people ask, do you wish it ever happened? And like, I still struggle to this day to give a definitive answer, because in one sense you go, well, you know, if you did play for, say, if I played the same amount of times as you had 56 caps or whatever, like what would the dynamic of my life be?
Yeah.
Then on the other side of it, well, like, you got to experience, like, I felt like I got to grow as a person, you know.
You become the man you are now. You become the outlook you have now.
Yeah. So, like, listen, it's like, I suppose it you know, what happened, and I'm very fortunate that my family, you know, and friends were such a big part into helping me get there. You don't get there on your own, and I suppose, like, yeah, like, there is no hatred. Like, there would be a certain degree of resentment, 100%, if you didn't give it your all the second time round. 100%. I'd be probably one of these, you know, you're talking about Mopey Byrne there, like, I'd be Mopey McKinley, just sitting there going, like, you know, Ireland winning a Grand Slam, you'd be like, oh yeah, great. Like, you know, there is none of that now.
You content,
which in some ways, like, my family, like, how can you ever repay them, like, for the work? And I didn't go into, I suppose, all the details of what they did, but like the hours of work that they put in. Research,
you're saying your brother, I know.
Research, legal, meeting people, giving gifts to people, doing whatever it took to, you know, for I suppose, you know, Ian to try and realise a dream, and you know, how can you ever start to begin to repay that?
And it's funny you say that. I have two brothers as well.
Yeah.
And there's stuff that's gone on in my life, and if I didn't have my brothers as well, I'm incredibly close with them as well.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have got to, you know, near to things that I've managed to do because of them, and in things that, you know, we're not going to get into philosophical deep things, you know, that they were there for me, and they. But then you look at it as well, and again, you don't want to take compliments. You look at them, and they're going, you've probably inspired them in ways that they can't. None of us can fathom. You know, they look at you. I don't know how you're repaying them here with this, but I guarantee you go and ask them, and they're like, what Ian has gone through and what he's gone down to do, and you look at, like, that's that's life. That's it's.
Well, yeah. No, I appreciate
Yeah,
it,
it's
Killer.
like it's-
I was told this was meant to be a happy
Yeah,
podcast.
yeah, yeah.
We've now gone apart from his driving. We've gone down into like very sort of dark corners. But no,
Yeah, we're down. We get Negroni there. We're Montenegro or whatever.
Negroni is a good shape.
Yeah,
That is
yeah,
fantastic.
yeah.
The settler.
The settler,
But
yeah.
no, like listen, it's like it is interesting because whenever say you get asked to do talks or something like that, there is an obviously dark element to it.
Yeah.
Like that is the story. But thankfully, it's ended up in a good one, and you know.
The weather started raining, and now look at
I
it.
know,
Here we're
I'm
back
telling you,
here, and it's,
what a story. It's the
yeah.
first Sun of 2026.
Exactly, exactly. So yeah, no, appreciate it, lads, and no, it's been great catching up.
Yeah,
you know,
great.
It's been a
you
pleasure
know.
having you on.
No,
I just couple of quick questions before we end.
Yeah,
I
of
feel like
course.
you're always asked it, but will you be supporting Italy
Yes.
this weekend?
Yes,
And what will the score be?
Italy by 50. Why are you laughing? No, I think it'll be interesting to see what team selection Andy Farrell goes for. I think Italy will, obviously stick to the same as close as, depending on injuries. But I think there's a few question marks as to, does Nick Timoney come in? He was really good.
Unreal when he came
Does
on.
Michael Millen start? Like, I was surprised he
Yeah.
wasn't starting. I know Jeremy Loughman did well.
Yeah.
But I thought Michael Millen when he came on, like he
And
just
I was saying it. He offered some, like he started.
ball carrying and all that.
Yeah, but when he came down, he with Munster, he did really well.
Yeah.
Did really well in the summer tour. Then got injured, and kind of then Jack kind of came back. Then I actually met Jack recently again. He's another guy. He was probably just about to break on. Snaps his Achilles. He's.
I know, yeah.
It's
awful
mad.
timing.
Everyone's.
It's
it opens up
timing, luck, and
yeah.
all of it, goes into it, and like you earn every cap you get. Like
Yeah,
whether it's
yeah.
your one,
I
like
know.
you like
A lot of things
there's-
have to align.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. But no, I think if I'm to make a prediction now without seeing the teams, still like Ireland still should win, but I don't think it's going to be as comfortable as years gone by. Still Ireland by about maybe 10 points or so.
Well, Ian McKinley, what a pleasure it's been to have you
Cheers, lads.
on our edition of What the Ruck, the Italian pickup, all thanks to our friends at MSL Motor Group and BYD North Dublin. We've been driving around the city in this beautiful BYD Seal U. The lads, I don't think you can complain about the level of comfort in this.
Just the driving, but the level of comfort is fantastic.
Terrible pilot.
No, it's a very comfy car.
Very, very safe pilot. I think it's safe to say
We want to grow this podcast where there's one for everyone in the audience.
where we might get there if this goes down well. Ian, thank you so much
No
for joining
worries,
us.
guys. Cheers, appreciate it.